Hello, everyone. Welcome along to Live on Air this evening. We've got a small studio audience. They'll have some audio feeds enabled.
Christianity has a wide variety of theological understandings, beliefs, practices through a wide variety of churches and denominations. Islam and Christianity both have grown out of a Jewish background. Is there any theological justification for claiming that Christianity has all the truth and Islam has it all wrong?
Are all religious truths created equal? To help answer that, I've used one of Melissa Martin's wonderful illustrations from Adam and Eve and evolution. Melissa has drawn here a ziggurat, temple, and common throughout the Middle East in biblical time. And you can find ziggurats have emerged in Egyptian history, they've emerged in Jewish history, and they're sort of evolved through time into things like the towers on Christian cathedrals, the spires, the minarets in Islam. And it seems to me that all of these were attempting, through their architecture, to create an atmosphere for religious truths to be discussed. And the different kinds of architecture don't mean that the previous kinds of architecture were all wrong. There's been an evolution of architectures, and we'll see that later on in another question. So, are all religious truths created equal? My hunch is no, not all religious truths, in fact, or all claims to religious truth are equal. But when we're dealing with evolving belief systems, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, and then you could add in, for example's sake, Mormonism. That's yet another example of revelation to a particular prophet and recorded in a sort of semi-authoritative way. All of these things are claims at religious truths. Some religious truths are not as profound as others. Now, Christianity is both a particular, or has a particularity about it, but it also makes claims to universalism, as does Islam, as does Judaism. And so the basis for discussing is around those universal truth claims. I am aware that during the long course of religious history, there have been magnificent examples where all three religions have had scholars and craftsmen that have collaborated to build things like the great buildings of the religious faiths.
Yeah, I've got a comment. I think the problem is with the word truth. I'd prefer to say there's an equality about the religious insights that are across the board culturally. Once we start talking about absolute truth, we're in danger, whether we're Islamic or Christian.
C.S. Lewis wrote a lot of books. Is his theology still relevant today? And in this instance, underlying Julie's question is the idea that theological truth is timeless. Lewis wrote in order to convince people of what he believed were the abiding truths of Christianity. There's an authority of ideas that he's put together in his writings. But is it always going to be making a truth claim for the whole truth? Well, perhaps at times I think Lewis did make some quite extraordinary claims, but by and large he's pretty well happy to coexist with other forms of religion. And you've only got to read his, I think it's The Abolition of Man, where he talks about Tao, the way, in Chinese philosophy. And he's well aware of the different kinds of interactions that people have in different cultures with religious truth. So many of his ideas remain relevant. Some of his ideas were culturally conditioned, like all our ideas are, and have proven not to be as timeless as all of that. So in an overall sense, I'd want to say, yes, a lot of Lewis's theology remains well worth reading. It's now an historic phase of Christianity, but for many of us that were born post-World War II or were youths in World War II, we would have found that Lewis's theology spoke in the 50s and 60s and 70s in a quite magnificent kind of way. He was one of the great Christian apologists. This sketch of Melissa Martin's, again from Adam and Eve and Evolution, trying to illustrate the family of God and all the things of God. And we're going to return to similar kinds of diagrams. Is theological truth timeless? Well, parts of Lewis, yes, and also parts of the Bible. So that's the reason for that particular illustration. Any comments there, Stuart?
Yeah, I'd agree entirely. Parts, but not the whole, but always something, and the most of it.